This next story has been suppressed by mainstream media. Let's go to Andreas for more.
Everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Hello. Welcome to the Exators. Tune in for another exciting episode of wonder, imagination, and discovery.
Recent Tartarians.
Она образует всеобщие закономерности, определяющие законы классической физики для нашего
Sometimes I
мира.
look at the moon and just think, the skin's beautiful.
Baby, when I met you, there was peace unknown.
Что касается энергии наномер, то она превышает ядерную в немыслимое число раз – 10 в 74 степени.
That's it. That's it. That's it. With your arms now. That's it. That's it.
Thank you for watching Exators. Keep listening. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, please follow and subscribe and share and support. It really helps. Coming up next, Exators.
By the way, that's gone. If you didn't record that, that's gone forever. It's gone.
In doing what we ought, we deserve no praise because it is our duty, said St. Augustine this one time. How you all doing? It's good to see you again. I'm Andreas. What's up?
Howdy.
With us is BurnEye from the Crypto Alchemist and BurnEye. How's it going, buddy? As well as the Homunculus in Progress, which with Bert and Ernie, the two puppets. And Andrew Vega down in the corner. What's up, buddy? It's good to see you again.
Howdy.
I'm
Good to
glad
see you
you're
too,
back.
man.
Oh, he's just up. It's all flipping around. This is great. It's like magic squares. What's up, Stephanie? Good to see you over there.
Hollywood squares.
And then Kurt. Kurt, look at you. You're so beautiful. How are you? So I was like, like streaming, you know, it's a lot of work. I don't know. But then I was thinking like, dang, the Lazarus hacker group and then the Canada violence that's been going on. And Ann made it. I was like, I don't know if Ann's going to make it. It's like, I don't know if I'm even going to stream right now. And then I was like, you know what? Everybody, if you want to make it, we should do it because there was this crazy thing. Good to see you, Ann. How are you?
Very crazy.
Good. Just having trouble with the internet.
Well, the internet's against us. You know, it's because they told you, remember that South Park? There's good internet out in California way. And then they just like lured us all here. Canada is seeing worse violence than ever before. It's like a wave of killings and attacks. I don't know if that's what's like for Canadians when they walk outside. I feel like you would notice something like that. But suspected hacker. Yeah, there has. Well, let's jump into that first. I just wanted to also say the title is explaining that this will be part of the subject is there was this breaking story of this hacker, but you know by the time
was he a hacker or was it just
we'll get into it.
We'll trying to be cool, releasing top secret government.
We'll get into it. Well, let's start with the great up north. All right. So, okay then. Hey, what about Canada? What do you mean in violence in Toronto? What's going on in Toronto with the violence? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, I don't live in Toronto, so I can't say for certain all of the things that have been happening. But I know there's been an increase in unprovoked attacks. Like
I heard Ryan Stone said that. Yeah, that there was stabbings in Toronto.
Right downtown, I believe. Right.
Yeah.
So
Calgary too, where I live.
Yeah.
I saw some dude got stabbed in front of a Starbucks in Vancouver too.
Right, and Surrey and British Columbia, so it's on the West Coast also.
Right, everywhere. Like my girlfriend Amber, she's so like depressed just riding the train home after work. It's so scary. Just drug addicts, homeless people. One dude was like a bat the other day, and it's like, what the WF is going on?
Like
a bat on the train, just like batting his hand, like instigating ready to, like it just messed up stuff.
So I know this is unrelated, but the other night I came to my window and there was a bat at the window and he was just like flapping his wings and I was just like, oh man. And I felt like he was a good guy, you know, because he eats the bugs. But I don't know.
I love bats.
Yeah, I feel like we need more bats, but maybe not the kind that you hit people with.
Not the baseball bats on trains.
So is this that you take away guns and then people start getting creative and like, people are just too creative? Or
Yes.
What's the deal?
That's exactly what it is.
So
yeah, people get stabbed in London all the time.
Yeah, so what do? Because we take away knives and then you get like, do you remember when you were a kid, you ever take a disposable camera apart and you lick the flash on the back of it and it like shoots you across the wall? Like you can kill somebody with anything is my point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, it's an attitude problem. That's definitely the issue. Like there was just like a shooting here in Louisville recently. I'm sure everybody heard about it, but I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's not going to be easy to get rid of all the things that we can kill people with, and because of how creative people are.
So yeah, it's the thing. Like in LA, you could expect people to die because we're Americans. We got all kinds of freedoms and stuff, and freedoms get hurt. But in an authoritarian utopia like Canada, you'd think that people were safer. That's all I meant. I just thought
it goes to show that times are getting desperate, and that it's not the guns that are killing people, it's people killing people, and that desperate people will harm other people when they're put in these situations. So we need to focus on social assistance and reforms as opposed to gun laws and stuff like that.
Okay, so this is keep going. Sorry.
Well, and the legal firearms owners are typically the most law-abiding citizens, because to be in that position, especially if you own a restricted firearm, like you're put through an RCMP database every day. Like you need to be on your best behavior because anything you do could get you flagged. So
yeah, absolutely, right? You commit a crime, you can't own that gun anymore.
Yeah, so they're not legal gun owners are not contributing, I would say, at all to any of these gun crimes. It's typically criminals who have been convicted of this type of stuff before and just kind of let out of prison.
And it sounds like it's
not the streets, like gotten off the hook.
It sounds like it's not that many gun crimes, though. Also, that's the thing. Like it's these new.
No, there certainly sees to be an increase
of gun crimes as well.
Just crime in general, yeah. But gun crimes for sure, because they're really pushing to, I don't know, confiscate them or whatever they say they're doing.
We talked about this, I think, at one point before, that there's like rules about what kinds of guns you can have in Canada, and that the Walter PPK, which is a very convenient itty bitty, is not legal in Canada. And so I find that sexist personally, but I don't know how you feel.
It's funny because I've had that kind of conversation with like gun shop owners before about
really
a variation of that, because these small firearms, but also we're not really allowed to there's no concealed carry, there's no open carry, there's no self-defense laws, there's none of that in Canada. So I think part of my conversation, the argument was more surrounding that. You can have small firearms in Canada, though. They just have to be above a certain barrel length. So there's still a lot of 22s and things like that are.
So even that seems like the
made
barrel
for smaller
length.
hands, if that's
weird.
The concern. But yeah, the barrel length for sure, and it's so that you can't conceal it.
Mm-hmm.
Because.
So why not? See, we live in America. We assume that everyone could have freedom, so they might execute their freedom, right? So everyone might have a gun, and if there is a gun, you have to assume it's loaded and it's ready to go. And isn't that a kind of weirdly safer society, or am I wrong? We've also got Americans here. Do you guys think that the idea of just guns everywhere, is this a Chekhov short story where the gun's introduced in the first act and someone dies because of it? Or
I mean, I was a pizza delivery driver in LA for a couple of years. I had the worst road rage. I would yell death threats out the window. As soon as I moved to Kentucky, that shit went away. As far as my road rage, especially after I got my permit and saw all the other people who were in the class, I'm like, oh my God, they're giving these people fucking concealed carry permits.
Well, but then just assume, like, so then it's kind of like Japan, right? In the Edo period, where everyone could be a cowboy, or a shogun. So you have to be polite. You have to constantly polite, because otherwise they might cut your tongue out. That's a decent society in a weird way. That's kind of the nuclear peace treaty, is that everyone could kill you if you're not really nice all the time. I mean, are we missing that? Is that does that sound too old school or what? I mean, because maybe if everyone had this, I think that I've always said that every girl should be socially prescribed a pink gun. Probably, I used to think a big one, because then you'd think, girls, all the girls, they all have those big pink guns. You have to be careful about them. And I think that would probably be a good stereotype to instill if a society was trying to do something socially, right?
They're easier to handle.
Would it have to be pink?
Not necessarily. Well, I was young when I first thought this. I had a lot of thoughts as a child. But just the idea that you could create, you could socially engineer stereotypes, right? And so that would be a new stereotype that you could create about women very quickly.
The pink gendered coloring too is also fairly recent, I believe.
Oh, this is a good conversation. I'm glad that you people can lead the conversation. So actually, bhakti and yoga, this is something that blows my mind. I think about this all the time.
What do you mean by you people?
I'm a bit triggered.
People who aren't. I'm kidding.
All right, so pink is an activation color, right? So I think about like John Wayne and his pink shirt, and you think about the old days when everyone used to have, men wore pink, rooms that you were trying to get your boy to wear pink, and the yogis wore pink, right? Like the yogi and the swamis, they have these pink. Look at this stuff. It's kind of orange now, but if you look in the old days, in the old pictures, it's like pink is really the color for a dude. A dude should be wearing pink. And then all of a sudden in the 20th century, they say, oh, you know what we should do is and before this, also 19th century, there's all these articles saying blue is to subdue a girl. You should have these navy blue and white walls so that the girl was subdued, right? And then in the 20th century, say, like, let's give girls pink Barbie, pink activation during the voting period. So in the working period, when the Rockefellers are trying to figure out how to tax the other half of the population, so they say, okay, we'll do an activation color, and then men start to receive subdued color, both blue and green, right? But blue becomes the boys' color, which is interesting because it's a subduing color, right?
Helps keep people organized.
Pink.
Yeah. It's just funny how it's so easily adopted by people. And how
style?
Just like gender coloring.
Engenderment, yes, engenderment is interesting because I think that's a big confusion. So the transgender movement is a right-wing ideology because it wishes to conform the individual. Transgenderism says the individual must match society's idea of gender. So you should change your body to match the society's idea of gender, right? If you're trying to convert your body because you think a woman's body looks and is a different way than the way your body is, rather than say, actually, my body is a kind of woman's body, or then in other words, what is femininity or what is masculinity?
Right. Constructed.
Doesn't that just make sense that it is a right-wing ideology, considering the fact that, it was the Democrats that were right-wing before they decided to, pretend covertly to be the opposite side? I think just as like a psyop to get in and condition people, and conditioning, honestly,
if I may,
is easy.
If I may, this whole idea that we would even prescribe ourselves to the terms used by the psyop, I think we should highly avoid. Right-wing, left-wing, Democrat, Republican, separatist.
Yeah, those are wings of a building that they don't let us inside of ever since QAnon,
Right. We don't need to group ourselves into these categorical types of thinking, and that's quite frankly the control system right there. We are told terms, verbs, nouns, positive. We are given these contexts to think in, and when we think in words, when we think in language, that linguistic and complicated etymological sense is screwing with our heads. it doesn't allow us to think clearly about what actually is happening, but instead forces us into a box where we must contextualize whatever it is that's happening within a certain category or perspective. And if we avoid all of that and we just simply step beyond that, we can see clearly the larger picture and understand that, yeah, there are people that are desperate for holding on to their current position, their financial resources, their power and control, their stability, and they will do whatever they feel is necessary to maintain that, including, horrible, unspeakable crimes against humanity.
And I've covered it before, but it's an interesting article nonetheless. You can get multiple versions of that talk about how neoconservatism formed and how neoconservatism turned the Republicans into neo-Marxist Trotskyites, really, because the Trotskyites were trying to fight the Leninists, and the Leninists took over the Democratic Party. The Trotskyites took over the Republican Party. So really, they were both kind of communists or at least Marxist theories.
Operation Paperclip, I thought it was the Nazis. So are you saying we're both communist, socialist, and fascist?
Everybody's a little bit of everything these days.
Yeah, I mean,
think is
even National Socialist,
Right? Yeah, at a certain point, what is your national? But okay, maybe we'll do. Oh, also, just a random tangent. QAnon Canada. Do you guys have a thing like that? Is there like a thing where they think Trudeau is secretly trying to save the world? Like maybe Trudeau is there like an internet forum that thinks Trudeau's making the world more French or something?
Castro Jr. Yeah.
We think he's Castro's son. That's what we think. So
is he gonna make the whole world like some sort of a paradise, like a Cuban socialist paradise? Is there? I want the Trudeau fantasy. Like is all I'm saying. Someone come up with it for me. Is all. I don't know. Okay. Suspected leaker of top secrets. Is it blocked? They don't want me to see the photo. Why is it like that?
So he's a National Guardsman that apparently was taking pictures of all of these top secret NATO and Pentagon papers and assessments just to be cool and posting them on his
First off, he's adorable.
Discord server. 21 years age. Leaking all of NATO's top national security secrets to his video game shop.
He kind of had. I hear Star Wars in the background there. Michael Aquino. Do you guys ever see that Michael Aquino haircut? Like whenever I see that look, where is it? Show me it. Come on. Yeah, there you go. You see the in the front there?
Vulcan.
You know what I mean? It's the Vulcan. Yeah, he's doing that. I'm just saying, it makes me wonder.
It's very Anton LaVey too.
Yeah. That he was the basis for Spock or whatever.
Right, Anton. Let's do it. Anton LaVey, young. If I can
find the eyebrows.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's definitely some Star Wars going on. Who's got the microphone? Is it Holy God, what is it? Where is it coming from?
It's not me this time.
I'm wearing earbuds.
Not you, can't be you. Hello? Was it you? No, it isn't you. I don't know. It's okay again? Weird. All right. So following the arrest, the Air Force released the suspect's service file, and it shows that he is an enlisted you said this, Massachusetts Air National Guard. I was hoping that we could get Jeremy because he's in Boston or nearby, and he could talk a bit about, what part of Massachusetts this kid's from. But, right, so this guy isn't even necessarily a hacker, it sounds like. He was
he's just working for the National Guard, was exposed to these papers, and decided to take pictures, copies of them, and leak them to his video game chums. Was it the New York Times or Washington Post interviewed a 16-year-old kid that was like friends with them and exposed to all of it and had been seeing these for months? Like it's ridiculous. And that I've been listening to like the Russians and like the different military sites kind of do the sit reps and like breakdowns.
Well, you guys want to see something cool? Not to butt in, but you guys want to see some cool glowing crystals?
We'll get there we'll get there to a minute. Let's finish the Ukraine hacker
the
thing.
Leaks, right?
Yeah,
and like
leak story.
They were saying it was embarrassing. Like there's spelling mistakes on these papers. Like it was an embarrassment, and that like it had to be a psyop. And then it's like now the Pentagon is stating that they're real. They're charging this guy for leaking them, and it's like one of the biggest national embarrassments for the U.S. empire and NATO since Snowden and WikiLeaks Assange.
Man, I mean, so he's working for the military and he's releasing state secrets then. So, that, I mean, kind of, you shouldn't be doing that, right? Or what do you think?
Oh, yeah, right.
Not for cloud, I guess.
I think it depends on what they are.
He shouldn't be on Discord, I think, is the real crime here. Like, they're a better network.
Yeah, and it's that they were saying, like, the 16-year-old that was interviewed that apparently knows the guy, was saying that he was doing it not for, like, the sake of being fed up with the military or trying to be a whistleblower, but rather just trying to, like, be cool with his group of 16 to 18-year-old video game buddies on, like, Counter-Strike.
Or the memes, bro.
Oh, man. So, like, basically, because he wasn't good at swearing oaths and keeping secrets, right? So, is this going to be like a Freemasonic kind of problem here? The other day we did a thing where we looked at AI and asked AI to tell us like Freemason oath secrets, and it wouldn't do it. And we're like, wait, why?
Really?
It's like, it would be unethical. Like, why would it be unethical? It would only be unethical if you took the oath. Did you take the oath? I can't tell you. I was like, wait a second. ChatGPT. Did you become a Freemason? I was like, really... I'm pretty sure
confirmed.
In a sense, it must have. So, but it won't tell you what the secrets are, right? So, I mean, that makes you kind of wonder: is that part of the issue here? They're saying that it's on an objective point, it has to be secret. Because why does it necessarily have to be secret? Why don't just put out thousands of fake maps and you can't tell which one's which? And just some pretty obvious things that they're going to do anyway, right? Like it's a football game. Like it's just moving drones.
Also today, there was an explosion, I believe, today in Texas where 18,000 cattle died.
What?
Oh my god!
Dang, girl, what? 18,000? That's horrible.
Well, yeah, that's such
a spicy
meatball.
That's horrible.
That's such an astronomical amount of cattle. You're like,
and you were smelling steak for miles.
Pull and intestines. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like, have you ever been on the 5? Have you ever gone like so California? There's this highway, and you go by where all the California cattle that are supposedly happy get slaughtered.
Cowschwitz.
Yeah, Cowschwitz. I hate to laugh, but it smells.
So
it smells like
another
kind. It smells like another kind of death and another kind of vile feces that you've and hair and things like that.
And rolling up your windows doesn't do anything.
Oh no, yeah, I kept my window up and I'll just go through it and it'll be like, wow. Hours later, you're like, whoa, is it gone? Oh my god! And now we get to garlic. Amazing, Gilroy. Yeah, it just keeps going. California, but
have you had your garlic ice cream?
Yeah, I have had garlic ice cream.
Weird, isn't it?
Hey, question for you guys. I don't know if I'm coming through okay. I'll tell you an interesting story. Speaking of, smells that hang around. So we all love the smell of fresh milk chocolate. Milk chocolate, delicious. And
milk chocolate?
Milk chocolate. You go into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You smell the milk chocolate. It smells absolutely, luxurious. It's this delicious, sweet kind of smell. Let me tell you a little secret about working in a chocolate factory. And this is a funny story. You guys will absolutely love this. So I went to calibrate the equipment, thermal disintegrator equipment for the final burn-off stacks for when they process raw cocoa beans at this company called ADM Cocoa. The company is just fantastic. They've got an extraordinary system of these machines that grind the cocoa beans up from raw straight source into the roasting stage, into a fine powder, and then extract all of the basic materials they need to make ultrafine chocolate. But here's the funny part. As we were walking through the hallway of this building, there's an entryway coming from the main office or customer/visitor entry point in the main lobby into the rest of the factory. And the hallway is about a 4.5 foot wide hallway lit with bright, cool white fluorescent lights. And the inside of the factory is entirely lit with high pressure sodium bulbs, which have a characteristic yellow single spectral wavelength. Now, in this area, we have a large Latino community, which is primarily composing the workforce at that factory. Now, I don't know for what reason, but it happened to be that the people who were working there were somewhat shorter than the average citizen. So I kid you not, in orange light with overalls, literal overalls, just like you'd see in the movie, the shorter people under orange light were packaging chocolate on the conveyor line, viewable to the customer or visitor. And
orange
I
hue.
was cracking up. I mean, I was laughing so hard inside. I was trying not to crack up on the outside, but I'm like, this is obviously some kind of facility, much like many others it must be, that they visited to make this movie. And
designed to give them just a certain amount of light at that level. That's horrible.
They just wanted you
it's
to
gotta be
think it
tough,
was
but
chocolate.
man, if you could have seen the conveyor line, I mean, it literally looked like Oompa Loompas. I'm not kidding.
You're a horrible person, Jeremiah. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I am. No, I'll be the first to admit that I am a horrible person. I'm pointing out statistical phenomena, which really are not at all personal. I met these workers. They're brilliant people. They're extremely hardworking, and they put shame to the average lazy citizen of my native country, which is kind of sad, really, because we should be proud of the fact that we have this heritage and this place that we live.
I'm worried for the
Oompa
Loompas. I'm concerned about the Willy Wonkas, the masterminds. You know what I mean? Like, you got these guys here that are doing this stuff. Like, and it seems like you got a lot of these young guys that are they get access to a computer, and then all of a sudden they have it's better than a gun, right? You're talking about ways that they can get into the system. I mean, should we be scared of like kids that read books and can access the internet? I mean, isn't that shouldn't we like make that illegal? Isn't that the
we
thing?
should be afraid of children that don't read books.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
kids don't read books. They just go on their little like tear, and then you can like close them down. This guy, he figured out his way into Elon Musk's bank account, into his Bitcoin, right? And then, who did he attack? He attacked Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Elon Musk. I mean, how much Bitcoin do you think Bill Gates has? I don't know. Like that poor guy. Like, what if it was all taken and he couldn't go to the mall, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but me and sympathy for Bill Gates, they do not belong in the same context.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, but you get my point. There's a lot of the real issue here is that the system itself is falling apart, and that there's going to be more and more holes that are popping up, and it's going to be kids that are going to be figuring out, like, hey, that's how this works. I see this every day. It's going to be a kid born in the Matrix, like Neo, who's going to figure it out every single time, and then they're going to constantly come after them. And it doesn't sound like this guy was trying to destroy the Pentagon. It doesn't sound like this guy was like super upset at Russia or Ukraine. It sounds like he was just trying to talk to his video game friends, and all he wanted was some transparency. And I don't know, is it so evil, or what are we supposed to say? He didn't steal from anybody, and how many people are going to be in jeopardy because it's all drones at this point, right? Like, they're just sending drones, and what is it? What's going on? What do you think?
At this point, honestly, it doesn't matter. They can send whatever they want. They can't change anything. The fact is, across the board, I see it again and again, and this is on a daily basis now. People are not sleeping any longer. They have had enough. They're tired of it. They are sick of lies. They are sick of manipulation. They are very tired of huge corporations feeding them false data and convincing them to believe a certain narrative. They can see through it. They've got basically the they live glasses on. They can see through the bullshit. And with that being said, people are very, very willing to stand up against this stuff. So we're seeing more tyranny because, of course, you've got to keep these outliers in check. The quote-unquote outlier is supposedly only a few percent of society, but if you actually look at the statistics, it's over 70%. So we, the people, well, we're pissed. We're really pissed off.
The narrative is
we've had enough.
How about Bob Lee? Do you guys hear about Bob Lee? Do you guys know about the Cash App executive who got murdered recently?
Yeah.
I heard about that.
How do I get Cash App? I have been trying for like 2 weeks, and it keeps sending me to like different spam freaking.
Just get the app on the Play Store. Go put Cash App's on the app on the Play Store.
It is on the Play Store?
Is it?
Find it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I use it infrequently, but it does exist. So SF police reportedly make arrest in fatal stabbing of tech exec Bob Lee. Who do you think? Because this is the thing. Bob Lee is this major important person. You can imagine it would be like espionage. It could be the Russians, right? Of course. Somebody.
More likely bankers, because he created a cash to crypto on and off ramp that they don't like those.
But he's still an exec and, still working with Dorsey. He could have been,
Well,
I don't know. So they're trying to say it was like a homeless guy. It was a 38-year-old booked on suspicion of murder. So like maybe he stabbed him for like his wallet or something like that. And the guy didn't. He's like, all I have is a phone square. Ah! And that was the end. I don't know.
Well, hey guys, in the classic ADHD, algorithm of this show, which we've so well established because not a one of us can keep attention for more than a couple of minutes, and we'd love to jump around. Let's jump to something visually interesting. And
wait. I just want to have any. Does anyone have any comments on this idea? Like, I guess because it's just the idea of like, he's not killed necessarily by this mastermind conspiracy.
Oh,
maybe.
We'll jump back to it.
Do you think he? Okay, we can. But do you think he is? Do you think he is murdered by some mastermind conspiracy that's pretending it was some crazy homeless guy, or do you think it legitimately was that San Francisco is that nuts? I mean, I guess.
Well, do we have the crazy homeless guy's middle name?
If you can pay attention to something that's more, on the lines of the science and the new alchemy terms, then we'll jump back and I will answer your question when I ask you to adequately explain all the details, because you see, I don't know the backstory of this guy, and unfortunately I can't give you an opinion until I completely understand what his situation was, how he ended up meeting his fate, and what all went down.
I can use.
So I have an opinion.
Wait, I want to hear Kurt's opinion. We're gonna wait on the science stuff. Go ahead, Kurt.
So I think with a lot of those, apps that were involved with easy money, that also Venmo is a very similar vein down there. We've seen a lot of scams, not only with Cash App, but with a lot of cryptocurrency and a lot of companies that were involved with a lot of that non-standard currency type of transactions. I think there's a lot of shadiness around the business in general, and I think a lot of these guys, they really knew what they were getting into when they bought in or founded a lot of these apps. They knew a lot more about the shady side of it that I think that we know about than we were given the impression of. So I think, there probably is a lot of shady things involved there. As far as to what specifically that is, if it's a big we'll say crypto mafia behind it, it's hard to say precisely, but I'm pretty sure it's a little naive to think that nothing was. It was just a random chance. Some guy just got shot. A rich guy in San Francisco just got, stabbed or whatever. I think there's a lot of naivety to a lot of things going on right now. And it's one of those freaky years for sure, where a lot of bad things are bound to happen. We've seen a lot of crazy shit happen. And so it's going to be interesting to see what stories the corporate media will peddle over the next few months, including the stories that we've seen today with the teenager leaking documents. Because chances are there's a lot of stupid teenagers doing a lot of stupid shit in our military.
Basically teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. He's basically, if you're 21, you're in the military, you're basically a teenager. You have your 12% interest loan on your car that, has 300 horsepower. It's a pretty broad stroke there.
And apparently Cash App isn't available in Canada. So that would
Wow.
explain why I can't find it ever.
That's pretty
Forget
wild.
about it.
I
And
mean,
people in
yeah.
the comments were saying those guys actually knew each other. The
Yeah.
man who stabbed him was.
Yeah, that it was a tech competitor or something.
Yeah.
The guy that was arrested.
Interesting. Okay, so that's
Also,
gonna be interesting.
in the comments, Stoops wants us to talk about Don Cherry.
Stoops, why aren't you here? I sent you the link. How dare you? Talk about Don Cherry.
Oh, if there's 10, I can remove the
Who's Don?
to make one. Yeah.
Don Cherry? The
Don
hockey
Cherry,
name?
the hockey broadcasting
Yeah.
Canadian legend. Come on,
Oh,
eh?
yeah, okay. I don't know this
With
one.
the crazy suits?
I don't know enough about Canada. You just caught me. That was it. Don Cherry.
He's a
Ugh.
legend.
Murdered hockey
He's organized
fashion.
in
Because he
Canada,
murdered
dude.
hockey fashion. I get it. That's pretty good. All right, I get to tie it now. That's a good sync, Stoops. You should be here. Wait, so out of respect, Jeremiah, you want to show us your science? You there?
Yes, I
All
do.
right.
But it was actually not
Hop
me.
in there.
It was Liminal's work. A lot of work on these things, and she's actually
Oh,
on
yeah?
her way back within 20 seconds here, and so she
With the jewels and the crystals? She was talking about crystals, right?
Yep, that's her and I are working together quite completely on this, and so we have been doing some fantastic development work and had really just, quite frankly, remarkable results. As in, we can't find anyone else online who's been able to reproduce these types of quality and clarity in various crystal formations. So
what are you exactly trying to do with the crystals? You're making new crystal batteries, or you're growing crystals for a particular purpose?
yes
Or the
and
experiment?
yes, we are making
Yeah.
crystals for crystal battery applications, but that is just the very entry point. I mean, that's right into the Hutchinson stuff, and that's something that we will be doing with a highly perfected formulation of absolutely pure Rochelle salts, which are piezoelectric and thermoelectric. We will be exciting those with radioactive isotopes, and then we'll be going beyond that point to try and extract asymmetries by using additives like strontium, zirconite, tantalum, and gallium.
So how big of a
Excuse me,
battery?
germanium.
How big of a battery crystal do you have to grow so that I can charge my iPhone?
Well, that is exactly what we're going to find out.
That's a good question. And so then, how long could that crystal continually charge the battery for your iPhone?
Forever. Well, because of the way that I'm doing it, I'm specifically designing these crystals from the chemical formulation to have no galvanic reaction with the electrodes, which means all conversion that happens to occur is from either thermal electric conversion or kinetic conversion from sound waves or from other electrical stimuli. And there's ultimately a fourth factor that we can enter into, which is a hyperspace conversion, where we're directly converting vacuum particles or quantum fluctuations into electrical power via the Casimir type forces.
So it's not breaking down the crystal; it's getting it from other places.
Only if we push it. I mean, we can break down the crystal to get 100-fold output from it, and this would be like how we would want to run, say, dilithium inside of a warp core reactor. But in this case, I haven't formulated the dilithium correctly yet, and I understand that I need to bind the lithium atoms with electrum vanadium, or EVOs in Ken Jolder's language. And so we would need to bind these things together with a very unusual type of electron shell where the protons are accessible and they can fission straight up. But we've already proved that this is possible. It's just a matter of whether or not we want to formulate a crystal for it and how we're going to do it. So we're testing a variety of things, and actually she's about to go on, so I'm going to switch over, jump off for a second here, or I'll just mute myself, and she's going to go on and explain to you her crystal formulation, how she came up with growing these absolutely fantastic piezoelectric crystals. And then I'll come back on and end it with the video link.
Yeah, so hi guys. I was on a show with BurnEye recently. Me and Jeremiah were showing off some pretty high clarity Rochelle crystals. And we decided, hey, why not make them glow also? So just for some visual fun here, I am going to switch on my camera and this UV light. And there you go. You can see that right now the Rochelle crystals are glowing due to rhodamine 6 under anywhere from like blue to UV light. It will create this pretty nice neon glow here. And I'm just gonna set this up a little bit. Bring my lights over to show a crystal that was harvested. Hopefully you can see this. Let me pull it back.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that in the striations of the crystal, it has trapped in some of the rhodamine 6. So it fluoresces when you expose
maybe
it.
turn your camera sideways if you don't mind, or your phone sideways.
Yeah, 1 second.
Oh yeah, I can see it there. Kind of looks like bismuth, but a crystal.
It does look like bismuth.
Interesting. So how are you designing its growth pattern, like so that it grows that way? You're muted, by the way.
We can't hear you, let me know.
Yeah, she's muted. Oh well.
Hey, I'm sorry about that. I was trying to say that initially we were getting these really ununiform crystal formations. So in order to make them a lot more uniform, like that crystal you can see in the bowl there, it's based on the height of the solution. So you put in a little seed crystal and you cover it up. We're using sheets of glass right now. And over the course of anywhere from 2 to 7 days, the seed crystal will grow very nicely in a very flat and relatively thick lattice, few millimeters thick. So they've been turning out pretty nice.
So is that the same one that was started from the seed crystal you put in the stream the other night with us?
Yeah, so this really big one you can see right here. Unfortunately, I'm just working with the UV light over here right now. That really big one in the bowl started out as a very small seed crystal, and it grew probably over the course of almost a week. And you can see it's quite
big. To answer
big.
your question, BurnEye, yeah, so that's not the same crystal that I showed in the recent video. That's actually another one that's almost 40% larger. And this was just, I thought it was done, but I decided to do something interesting. I actually covered it up with more highly soluble liquid. There was a couple of dropout seed crystals that I had to remove from the tank, but they luckily did not catalyze a new nucleation point when I pulled them. So it's still continuing to grow, and I figure I'm just going to let that thing get as big as it possibly can and see where we end up. It's now actually been covered with liquid, which is an unusual type of test that I'm doing. But I may be able to grow them to a certain width and length, and then actually increase the height by using proper seeding material.
Nice.
So here I'm going to pull out an example of a pretty big seed crystal. Hope the lights don't get in the way. You can see that's a pretty nice chunk right there. Very uniform. We've been working with ones a tenth of that size as well. And eventually they do get as big as the one in that bowl there if you give it enough time.
That's pretty sweet. So you can end up growing crystals. You think that you'll be able to make a crystal powerful enough to run like a washing machine or something like that eventually?
That's
eventually LED lights. I mean, let's just start with basic lights.
You know, right? Yeah, we're just trying to power lights right now. We've gotten arcs and sparks inside of crystals. You have to be careful how hard you drive them. It can cause critical fractures. So we're refining that process with how much power we can put into it. The striations are really unique in that you might think that they're deformities, but they work wonderfully when you want to play with sound. You'll find that different striation formations work better for treble, or better for mids, better for bass. It's actually really quite interesting. I don't know if we'll have a chance to perhaps do a little music demo if Jeremiah has the space.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
But yep, right now we're working really hard on putting them all together. Eventually, I would like to do experimentation with magnets, which might require going over to a salt formation that has a ferrous compound in it.
Legit.
Yes, we're looking at dysprosium. Dysprosium happens to be a magnetic element very viable for salt solutions, and we are going to be experimenting with dysprosium-based salts that are also piezoelectric using the Rochelle potassium reaction. And potassium seems to be really quite nice.
Cool. That's awesome. I can't wait to see a phone that's charged from a crystal, and then everyone can have like a crystal the size of your air tags, you know, that can charge your phone, and then you don't have to ever plug it in ever again, and then just put crystals into things instead of batteries.
I would love a crystal air tag. That would be dope as hell.
It seems like the thing. To deviate into hackers again because it's still on my mind. I'm sorry. I am a one.
Yeah.
You'd think that I'd be like my ADHD, but I'm kind of a one-trick pony tonight. Teen hacker in Spain. This happened like a few days ago, like last week, and so this one follows in suit of the last ones, except he was just they claimed that he stole confidential data of more than 500,000 taxpayers from the National Revenue Service, and so part of the deal with that is how many of those people are paying taxes inappropriately, because it's like most countries, you've got a corrupt elite that have figured out a way to dodge taxes. And so this would be a way that you could put publicly and transparently, hey, this is the actual tax records of these billionaires, right? And then a lot of them are royalty on top of that. So he's got certain people that he has to worry about upsetting. The Eye of Horus to facilitate the selling of the stolen data. In an online interview, he claimed to have access to the personal data of more than 90% of the Spanish population. The leaked data reportedly included account phone numbers, bank balances, other private and confidential information of Spanish citizens. Authorities believe that Huertas would have stolen the data to create an online database and sold to third parties for profit. So, I mean, of course, he's doing it to maybe they're saying this for profit, but we don't know that yet. And all we know necessarily is that all this information in the hands of this guy isn't that much weirder or worse than in the hands of the Spanish government, which seems to be really terrible at holding on to it because teenagers are able to grab it. Right? I don't know. Is that a joke, or is that just legitimately the concern here? Is that why is this data in the hands of the government, and why do they not know how to hold on to it? They know everything. It's all in one place. It's so easy to hold on to, and they can't keep it safe. I mean, what are we supposed to think about that? And then, just what are we supposed to think about these kids, these neos?
Similar to like the whole TikTok metadata debate too, they're trying to claim, and then they can't even keep it safe themselves.
I'm gonna jump in here. So, what I've been working on this whole past week is I've been decoding one of Da Vinci's paintings, and things I found in the Last Supper were just absolutely mad, dude. I found the geometry of the entire King's Chamber, the sarcophagus, the geometry of like 10 different biological, really important like Egyptian staples of biology that they have in there.
There's Ben, and Ben, was that you in the video you uploaded on your channel with decoding it the other day?
Hello? Ben! Dagobah system. Remember that? Anybody? Dagobah. Ben. Dagobah system. Sorry. Anytime I hear someone say Ben, and that's happened a lot in my life for some reason. I don't know. So I get anybody on the hacker thing on kids. Do you guys think that the idea of technology, what should we do? Because like the other thing is, once you arrest this kid, he's going to end up being put into some government program where they can use him as a hacker. He's becoming Edward Snowden, right? So it's not like that's even worse. Now he's going to work for the government. Now he's going to know how to get access to everybody else's data. And so you're going to have government trained guys that are, they're just picking up the best hackers they can arrest, right?
Yeah, and he'll have no other choice but working for the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be like that Catch Me If You Can guy doing all the anti-counterfeiting. But it sounds like they were just being sloppy and they left stuff laying out and he found it. If they weren't smart enough to spell things correctly, it sounds like they just got embarrassed and are trying to make an example of him. I'm speaking just of that Air National Guardsman. As far as
it does seem like most of the time that's what's going on, is that people were sloppy. If a 16-year-old kid is getting into the system, right? Yeah. Or even in this case where the military guy is looking at it, but in general, they're sloppy. Yeah.
Well, in Spain, they all have nap time, so I'm sure he was just...
It's weird. Mexicans built pyramids. Spanish people invented siesta. I can tell you.
Well, one of those cultures had access to organic hallucinogens. I hate that word, but
pretty sure they had mushrooms in Spain too. But
yeah,
Yeah, they did. Yeah, there's like the Spanish Inquisition. I don't know, as a random thing. If you think about
Would there have
Spanish,
been an Inquisition if they had mushrooms?
Well, let me say this much, guys.
The
Let me
Basque
say
witch
this much.
trial
Okay,
was definitely
so
because they had access to drugs, and the witches were taking scopolamine, you know, and they were.
Here's the thing. He made a good point, and mushrooms, for example, are not hallucinogens. They are classified as entheogens. Entheogens are natural materials that happen to grow from plants and are extracted with no conversion necessary, only to concentrate what already exists. Hallucinogens are synthetic molecules that plug into receptors in the human brain to recreate the effects of natural materials. So we have to classify that there is a difference between hallucinogens, which is actually a really nasty term, and entheogens, which simply grow out of the earth just as they are. For example, your brain, when
you guys hear me now?
For every one of you, when you sleep at night, generate dimethyltryptamine in your brain through the pineal gland. This is a natural part of the sleeping process. It is part of the dreaming process. It's what allows one to experience a visceral, three-dimensional, and almost realistic sense of a simulated reality in the dream state. And the purpose of this dream state, as we found in mice who were made to run through a maze several times and find the solution, when they found the solution, they would dream then of that solution and take the same, based on timing, turns, right, left, forward, whatever, going through that maze, trying to figure their way through it, and they would take the exact same turns in their maze. They had memorized it. They were running it through the dream state.
But also, not all the drugs they took were mushrooms. So, like, for instance, I was talking about scopolamine. So, scopolamine is really popular in the bellflower, belladonna, all the witch trials. You know, a lot of that had to do not with entheogens or psychedelics or even acute schizophrenics. It's a deliriant. It's technically
an entheogen.
So it's technically a deliriant. So it's not the same. It's not a disassociative. It's not a psychedelic. It's not an upper. It's not a downer. It's a deliriant. It'll make you believe what you're seeing is real and what you're experiencing is real. Like you lose the sense of awareness that something's not. So you might think something's a face, and then it is a face, right? So that kind of thing.
Scopolamine was used by like the Aztec kings to like bury all of their high priests. Anybody that is dosed with the right amount of scopolamine will stand in a pit and get buried.
Right. Also, the CIA was really into scopolamine originally as they were looking for truth serums because the Pinkertons used it in the 19th century when Lincoln brought the Pinkertons in to control and kind of build what became the FBI. Their huge thing was giving people scopolamine, and if they had the time, they would get someone addicted to codeine and then remove it from their system so that the withdrawal made them suffer, and then they would give them scopolamine and tell them how they could get better was to tell them the information. Classic.
Really? Well, that'll work.
Well, I mean, I was gonna do a short episode, but Lazarus, did you have something you wanted to share about the Last Supper? Because I know you got cut off there.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody has found all of this in the Last Supper yet. I found just about every important Egyptian geometry that exists in there.
So I remember the Last Supper having like, first off, you've got his girlfriend is in the Last Supper. There's a book about that.
Yeah, Mary. You see that little half moon thing that's above that middle window? Of course, those three windows are like all over pyramids all over the world, but I'm also pretty sure that the King's Chamber being 64 cubits, that the 8 little alcoves on the wall, probably 8 cubits each, giving you the geometry of the King's Chamber. And the antechamber has these 4 slats in it. Everything about the antechamber at the top of the Grand Gallery has to do with 4 dimensions. It's about ascending to the 4th dimension. So there's a pyramid that rests between Christ and Mary, and the right corner of it rests on that little half moon, and then the line from it gives you the 4th square on the ceiling. And dude, it went so nuts that I actually had to stop because I just would have kept finding more and more. But there's actually 3 whole pyramids in that painting, and you get the geometries for the entire 3 pyramids. Like the Great Pyramid is in there 3 times. I mean, it's nuts, but that isn't what I was wanting to talk about. That was like a little side comment, just something cool that I figured out recently. as Bernie probably knows, I am always in the depth of like the most adept esoteric practices. And I have recently been learning from the students of an amazing man called John Dubuis. And John Dubuis is like one of those guys that if he was born in like Christ's times, that they probably would have called him some sort of saint. We're talking about just an incredible man. But one of the practices that this man is, this is a man who gave information freely. And that is a rarity. No, that's not John Dubuis.
Which
John
one
Dubuis
is he?
was French.
Try
Look
a
up
U instead of an O.
Dubuis.
There we go.
Yeah, John Dubuis, an incredible man. Yeah, this is a really rare person in occult circles because he gave information completely freely, and we're talking about this guy is just, and he's a saint. One of the things that he's teaching that I'm about to do because the months are coming up. He teaches the real system of Kabbalah. He does not teach you that broken, non-crystalline tree of Kabbalah. He gives you the real crystal lattice tree of the Kabbalah, as in Egyptian religion when they talk about beyond the sixth dimension, you make a quantum leap. So this is when when things turn into crystalline. That's the real tree of Kabbalah. Right? And he teaches a practice that will allow you to remember the entirety of your existence. And I have met several of his students who also work with Frater Albertus. We're talking about two of the most premier alchemists of our entire age, for the past 100 years. These were the guys who were initiating anybody who was anybody. And his students have done this. And although there is a high rate of suicide for people who actually remember the entirety of their existence, how many times they've ascended and descended through all of the dimensions. But it's out there, and the months are coming up when the energies in the solar system will allow you to open this gateway to actually remember every place that your energy has been. And his book is called something of eternity, encountering eternity, something like that. You guys should check it out. It is
Experience
it's
of
about
Eternity.
one of the most it's about one of the most serious adept practices that I've ever come across. This guy just he gave away the golden goose, man. He really did.
That's awesome. Well, I know I told you guys I was like, we're going to do a show for like an hour, and we're at an hour. And I'm glad you guys came because I know it's super late, but we'll do it again soon. I appreciate it. Let me put up some of the links really quickly also. And thanks for, throwing some thoughts out there. Stephanie Scott, make sure you go to Stephanie Scott's Linktree and buy some Stephanie Scott art, which is pretty legit.
Thanks.
Based. And then also... And what's Balance Blackwood again? Balance Blackwood, right? There's a holistic and I'm supposed to
Balance Blackwood, yeah.
That works. Balance Blackwood. And you can stay up to date with the Tribe newsletter. And then you can say you found it through Exertus, which is the way to do it. Vega, do you have a link, or do you want me to just?
Oh, it's I'm not here to push anything that I do.
You can always find him. He's here in the Andreas Philosophy meme.
I apologize for my behavior in there, but
he's a great mod.
No.
You gotta teach me Discord, because apparently you've been blocked on Facebook for another month.
Yeah, it's true. I'm blocked for 30 days because I posted something a year ago, and then they just locked me out. So something interesting must be happening in the next month, I imagine. Something cool they don't want me to tell you or warn you about. So look out for interesting things going on in the world. And then Crypto Alchemist. Make sure you go to Crypto Alchemist channel, subscribe.
I
and go to
might
his
do
live.
another live later. We will see.
There's some interesting things I learned about crypto too. If you guys do deal with crypto, it seems that there is an algorithm that they've been using that has to do with lunar cycles.
Yeah, actually.
Really? Yeah, I
shout out
kind of. I
Project
think there's
Google.
something going on
does
with the
a lot
coin
of
market cap. If you notice how humans swing with money, you can actually follow SIP dips based on lunar. Yeah, but I always just equated that with women, so I don't know. It could be.
Is there a Bitcoin almanac? Come on.
Lazarus, do you have a YouTube channel we're supposed to go to?
I think I posted it in the private chat there, the last YouTube channel there.
Legit.
I've taken basically everything down off of my YouTube.
That's the 2-hour decode that you posted the other night, Ben, of the Last Supper decode or whatever.
Yeah, here you go. You can check out
that video is insanely long.
That's probably perfect. If you want to do a full proper, I'll check this out, like a full actual deep dive.
It's
into
actually really good. I
skip through it. Look at all the fucking geometries that are in there, like the solar disk of Egypt. That thing will fractal into eternity.
I would imagine that what you
right there, go back. Nefertiti, dude.
I would go into a Muslim mosque and then you just paint people over all of the Tree of Life stuff because you just use that as a background so you could have perfect geometry.
I see what you're saying there. Could
kind of be a thing I would consider doing. I don't know. Makes a lot of sense. But I appreciate that you put up with me. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Get some sleep.
Love you too.
Bye. The next one.
Wait, MK Canada.
Canada is a country. Waves of people came to this country, were welcomed by the folks who have lived here for millennia, the First Nation. And built this society with waves of people fleeing religious persecution, fleeing tyranny, fleeing to try and build a better life for themselves here than they had back home. Whether it's folks fleeing from world wars or fleeing from civil wars, these people always want the same thing: to be able to live in peace, to raise their families, create a better future for themselves and their communities. And that is what generations created, this extraordinary diverse society we have. Now, Canada remains one of the only countries in the world where citizens are, by and large, positively kind. And one of the reasons we are that way is because Canadians have confidence in our